Chapter 95 to 97. Yuto draped the cloak over his shoulders, tightened the ninja tool pouch at his waist, and unrolled the sealing scroll to fasten it to his wrist. "Turn around and look at me," Tsunade suddenly spoke, causing Yuto to turn and frown. "Your collar is flipped. Yuto lowered his head slightly, watching his sensei fuss with his collar. Absent-mindedly, he was now taller than Tsunade. The Branch family boy understood her feelings well. Many people, when their thoughts were in turmoil, would instinctively keep themselves busy to avoid idle thoughts. "Sensei," Yuto said, staring at Tsunade's pale cheek. "It might sound strange, but I think you need to be stronger." Tsunade remained silent, not responding. She had grown up with Orochimaru, and after their ninjutsu matured, they fought on battlefields together for years, earning their fame through blood and bonds. In Tsunade's mind, if there was a most trusted comrade list, Orochimaru would undoubtedly hold a spot. However, the former friend betrayed the village, dug up her grandfather's corpse, and shamed the Will of Fire. Now, as a member of the execution squad, she had to capture or even kill Orochimaru, sacrificing him for their cause. Former comrades, now enemies, the fate of shinobi was always unpredictable. Tsunade-sensei, Yuto spoke again, his tone becoming soft but serious. "Pull yourself together. You know how dangerous it is to go to battle with an unstable mind, especially considering your hemophobia. Everyone gets confused sometimes, and kid, you need to learn to take care of women." Tsunade patted the boy's collar and continued. "As Orochimaru's comrade and the first Hokage's granddaughter, I have to go, but Sensei, your hemophobia, you sure it's okay? When I made a name for myself in the shinobi world, you couldn't even refine chakra, you little brat." Tsunade ruffled Yuto's hair and chuckled. "I'm not that fragile. Orochimaru must have known this day would come when he did such vile things." As they spoke, they walked out of the house heading towards the village entrance. Outside the gate, a dozen people were already waiting. Despite the hasty operation, Hiruzen Sarutobi had still assembled a sufficiently powerful squad, mostly comprised of support and reconnaissance members since he himself was present. Yuto nodded slightly to the Ambu with the monkey face mask, acknowledging him. The atmosphere was heavy. Everyone knew what they were about to do. They were going to capture the frontline commander under the Hokage's leadership. Would Orochimaru surrender peacefully? No one held an optimistic view. A fierce battle was inevitable. Although it was called a capture mission, it was more of an execution. Everyone felt the pressure, not because they feared failing to capture Orochimaru with the Hokage and Tsunade present. Failure was not an option. The key concern was what would happen after they removed the unit commander. Hiruzen Sarutobi, also cloaked, had flame-patterned edges on his garment, a special design for the Hokage. Sensing the squad's oppressive mood, Hiruzen took a puff from his pipe without speaking. For the sake of the village, he had to take down Orochimaru, either imprisoning him for life or killing him on the spot. Given his understanding of his disciple, the first outcome was nearly impossible. The three legendary Sannin were his pride. For Hiruzen, the will passed down from master to disciple was more significant than blood ties. Personally, dealing with a beloved disciple he had watched grow was a bitter task, even making his tobacco taste bland. But he knew he had to do it. With a resolute stance, he would respond to this betrayal, declaring to the world that the Will of Fire was not wrong, Orochimaru was. Only by acting this way would Konoha remain united and focused on the war. In times of chaos, harsh measures were necessary, a lesson every competent leader understood. As for the future, it would unfold step by step. First, they had to quell the turmoil before addressing anything else. Hiruzen put away his pipe and quietly said, "Let's go," leading the group towards the land of hot water. A few hours earlier, Hiruzen had ordered Jiraiya to return from the land of rain. During this time, Jiraiya would manage Konoha's affairs. Hiruzen hadn't disclosed the exact reason to Jiraiya. The distance from Konoha to the land of rain and the land of hot water was about the same. By the time the execution squad reached their destination, Jiraiya would have just arrived in Konoha, making it impossible for him to catch up. Through his actions, Hiruzen demonstrated to everyone that he was still a vigorous leader, with a capable lineage of disciples. The execution squad consisted of top-tier shinobi, with even the weakest being a newly promoted jonin. The path from the land of fire to the land of hot water was well maintained by the frontline troops, so they faced no obstacles. Upon entering the land of hot water, the squad slowed down, a mutual understanding among experienced shinobi to conserve chakra and stamina for the upcoming battle. 30 kilometers from Konoha's camp, the squad halted. The team, mostly Anbu, operated methodically. Some took up guard positions, while others disappeared, likely scouting for information. Predictably, they encountered Konoha's reconnaissance personnel. After revealing his identity, Hiruzen inquired about Orochimaru's recent activities. He didn't dismiss the scouts but temporarily incorporated them into the squad, considering the possibility of combat personnel being swayed by Orochimaru throughout the journey. Yuto was puzzled. Wasn't the third Hokage worried that Orochimaru would flee if he got wind of this? But seeing Hiruzen's demeanor, Yuto refrained from asking. Besides, he was exhausted from using his masked mode a few hours ago in the long trek, so he didn't feel like talking much. After nearly an hour's rest, Hiruzen suddenly spoke. "Yuto-kun, You've been on the land of hot water battlefield for a long time. Where would Orochimaru usually be around this time? Lord Hokage, at this time, he should be in Konoha's camp. What would he most likely be doing? Reviewing documents, studying maps and formations, teaching subordinates ninjutsu, meeting heads of various ninja clans here, or even preparing to assassinate enemy experts. In other words, doing what a good commander should do, right? Yuto didn't respond, finding the question hard to answer. He simply bowed and went to Hirusen remained silent for a long time, showing no expression. He just took out his pipe again, smoking with his back to his subordinates. After another short rest, the execution squad set off again, this time stopping 5 kilometers from Konoha's camp. Hirusen handed an order to an Anbu member. Tell Orochimaru to come and see me. Orochimaru-sa, Orochimaru-sa. You must leave immediately, for your and Danzo-sama's safety. In the heart of the Konoha camp, the root member codenamed Badger stared intently at Orochimaru, even through the rat-faced mask. His urgency and anger were palpable. The third Hokage could arrive at any moment. No, by now, the execution squad is probably at the door. Orochimaru responded calmly, not even lifting his head. Badger gritted his teeth but felt helpless against the vastly superior Orochimaru. When the human experimentation base was exposed, Danzo immediately sent Badger to the Konoha forces in the land of hot water to inform Orochimaru of the situation. As Orochimaru's accomplice, Danzo was primarily worried about being implicated himself. Following his orders, Badger had been urging Orochimaru to defect immediately. However, to Danzo's and Badger's surprise, Orochimaru did not flee upon hearing the news. Even as the situation became dire, the commander of Konoha's eastern front continued calmly reviewing a battle casualty report from 3 days prior against Kirikakure. Badger could no longer contain himself and stepped forward, dropping the honorifics Orochimaru U. Suddenly Orochimaru's golden snake-like eyes glowed, and several gray-brown serpents emerged from his sleeves, instantly coiling around Badger's body. The snakes, soft and ribbon-like when attacking, became as hard as steel once they wrapped around him, making it impossible for Badger to break free. One small snake hissed and bit into Badger's throat. Poison flowed through his bloodstream, causing intense muscle pain and paralysis. I'll give you only one chance to speak wrongly. Orochimaru's raspy voice slithered into Badger's ears, delivering a terrifying pressure straight to his brain. Badger opened his mouth, enduring the pain, seemingly trying to say something. At that moment, rhythmic knocking came from outside. Both Orochimaru and Badger recognized it as a signal from the third Hokage's subordinates. Orochimaru-sama, came the voice of an Anbu outside. The Hokage waits you outside the camp. Tell me the location. I will go there. Yes, a Hokage's order and a hastily drawn map were thrown inside. The Anbu left without ever entering the room. Orochimaru put down his pen, tied his forehead protector, and walked out without a glance at Badger. Wait. Badger gasped, struggling against the neurotoxin. Orochimaru-sama, are you going out to die? Dragging Danzo-sama with you? Orochimaru chuckled. You are Badger, right? Yes. Go back and tell your Danzo-sama. Orochimaru sneered, the cold contempt unmistakable. A true leader is one who dares to take responsibility for everything at any moment. Seeing Orochimaru approaching, Yuto was dumbfounded. You're really bold enough to come here. With Danzo's abilities, he should have been able to inform you of the sudden developments by now. The third Hokage brought so many elites clearly intending to take you down, it's practically a blade at your throat. But when Yuto saw Orochimaru's attire, he understood. The sinister yet handsome man wore Konoha's special Jonin battle armor, with his arm guards and leg protectors secured tightly, and a forehead protector with Konoha's symbol. He was still dressed as the frontline commander. Even at this moment, Orochimaru considered himself the commander of Konoha's eastern front. Yuto realized he had fallen into the transmigrator's trap, assuming the original narrative was entirely accurate and using character behavior from the story to predict events. In reality, humans, as complex emotional beings, make different decisions based on various situations. From Orochimaru's perspective, he was highly regarded by his teacher, who not only taught him numerous jutsu but also entrusted him with the role of frontline commander, making him a strong candidate for the fourth Hokage position. When the moon god attacked Konoha, his status as the next Hokage was publicly established. Reflecting on this, neither Hirusen nor Konoha had wronged him. On the contrary, they had shown him great favor. You will wait here, Tsunade. You come with me, Hirusen said softly, ignoring his subordinates' protests as he and Tsunade walked towards Orochimaru. When the two were about 20 meters apart, Tsunade suddenly strode forward and punched Orochimaru in the abdomen with her chakra-enhanced strength, sending him flying 100 meters back. Ah, if only I had some popcorn, Yuto thought wistfully. Orochimaru. Tsunade's roar was deafening. Her physical prowess far surpassed Yuto's, and her mastery of chakra-enhanced strength and the yin seal allowed her to crack the ground with every move. Boom, boom. Two clouds of smoke dissipated, revealing Katsuyu and Manda Tsunade and Orochimaru clashed, raising a cloud of dirt and dust that reached 100 meters into the sky. Yuto quickly lost interest in the battle. The blonde woman hadn't released the strength of 100 seal, and Orochimaru hadn't used any forbidden techniques. Their fight was intense but not to the death. Yuto suddenly realized everyone had been deceived by Hiruzen. The experienced Hokage's goal might not have been to capture or kill Orochimaru. If Orochimaru left the Konoha camp, didn't immediately defect, and didn't use low-level Konoha shinobi as shields, it meant he still had some loyalty, indicating room for negotiation. What was to be negotiated? Yuto pondered, pretending nothing had happened was impossible. Orochimaru's theft of the first Hokage's body in human experiments had left him no place in Konoha. However, there were many ways to leave Konoha. Leaving as a rogue, shinobi would mean endless pursuit, but if he left after accomplishing a great feat, he could be exiled from the land of fire, reducing future pressure and avoiding a life of constant hiding. Orochimaru's departure was inevitable, and losing such a powerful and prestigious figure would heavily burden Konoha, already engaged in battles on four fronts. Mishandling this could tip the scales of war. As the third Hokage, Hiruzen had to find a way to mitigate this. Trading Orochimaru's no pursuit for his cooperation with Konoha to make up for lost strength was the ultimate understanding between master and disciple. When Orochimaru walked towards Hiruzen alone, he had agreed to his teacher's arrangement, making up for the lost strength. Single quotes. Yuto watched Hiruzen's back, sensing a strong smell of blood. If both sides lost equal strength, wouldn't they return to the same starting line? Half a day later, explosive news spread throughout the ninja world. Orochimaru defected and fought with the third Hokage in the land of hot water, both severely injured. Konoha's forces are retreating. He flexed his fingers, making a cracking sound. It seems the information was true. Nearby, a subordinate holding a thick file nodded and said, "Lord, we have confirmed that Moon God Aizen Sasuke indeed went to Konoha the night before and had a major confrontation with the third Hokage. Additionally, the information about the experimental base is true. Outside the village of Konoha, there is an experimental point established by Orochimaru, using Senju cells. Most critically, the sensory team has confirmed that there were intense chakra bursts in the Konoha-controlled area yesterday. Aizen Sasuke, the name of our foe, his foolishness now, it's starting to show." Killer Bee touched his chest. The thin lines transmitting medical chakra were still working, sustaining his life while constantly stimulating body tissues and bringing pain. I snorted coldly. Aizen Sasuke, that bastard stirring up trouble everywhere. Killer Bee, next time we see him we must make him pay. Big Bro's voice sounds eager and bright. But if we face him, we'll need to plan right. Killer Bee, dumbass, stop sputting anything just to rhyme. A heavily knocked on his partner's head. Behind the two of them was a dense army of Kumo shinobi. If you looked to the left from the mountain where the Kumo shinobi were located, you would see the Kirigakyo forces resting on another peak. Below the two high mountains was a wide plain, and the Konoha forces were retreating towards the border of the land of fire at a steady pace. Although orderly, there was a sign of panic. Kirigakyo and Kumogakyo were like cunning hunters, trailing the Konoha forces from a distance, maintaining a highly ambiguous distance, constantly provoking the nerves of the Konoha shinobi for an unprecedentedly large prey. The two hunters tacitly stopped fighting each other and pointed their spears in one direction. "We can't wait any longer. Let's go." A's body emitted silver arcs of electricity. With the support of the lightning release, his body was fully activated and his speed and strength increased sharply. With a bang, the two disappeared, and 4 feet landed on the ground, making only one sound. As the two main commanders charged, the Kumo shinobi naturally couldn't lag behind. They dove down the mountain, rushing towards Konoha at the same time. Seeing the Kumo shinobi had already made their move, the Kirigakyo forces also launched a fierce charge. These two shinobi villages wanted to take advantage of Orochimaru and the third Hokage being severely injured, to completely wipe out the Konoha forces in the land of hot water, and even find the heavily injured Hiruzen to execute their decapitation plan. Both shinobi villages had investigated thoroughly. The moon god's attack on the village was real. Orochimaru stealing Hashirama cells for human experiments was real. And the high-intensity chakra bursts outside the Konoha camp were also real. Konoha had suddenly lost 2 powerful combat forces, one of whom was even the head of the village. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Kirigakyo and Kumogakyo knew they had to end the battle before Konoha's reinforcements arrived. They had already delayed a few hours due to confirmation of the information. They couldn't wait any longer. In just a few breaths, Killer B and A had charged down the mountain, their speed increasing. By the time Konoha's reconnaissance team saw them, Killer B was already covered in the crimson cloak of 4 tails. Boom boom boom. 3 consecutive tailed beast bombs exploded within the Konoha forces. Screams filled the air, and countless were dead or injured. "It's the Kumo shinobi, damn it. Defense unit, block them. Shit. Quickly notify Yuto-sama and Tsunade-sama. Killer B roared lowly, blocking for tails in front of his chest, ignoring the counterattacks of the Konoha shinobi crashing down like a meteor. A's body was covered in electric arcs, his speed incredibly fast. He didn't use any ninja tools but fought bare-handed. Each swing of his arm could take several Konoha shinobi lives. Under the impact of the ab combo, the Konoha camp was awash in blood. The betrayal by Orochimaru and the news of the third Hokage's possible severe injuries had plunged their morale to rock bottom. It would be an understatement to say they were leaderless. Adding to the misery, the main forces of Kumogakure and Kirigakure also charged in at this time. The three sides clashed. Konoha was retreating step by step, and the shinobi were falling in droves. "Find Hiruzen Sarutobi, kill him," A suddenly roared, his voice audible across almost the entire battlefield. In response to his call, besides the cheers of the Kumo shinobi, there was a thunderous lion's roar. Yuto appeared with his right arm wrapped in pitch-black bandages, his chakra armor roaring constantly, with the straight-line speed surpassing the lightning body flicker technique. He crashed towards a lone lion. I didn't dodge. Instead, he bent his arm into the shape of bullhorns, accelerating with a bang, the electric flowers dazzling like a small sun. Lightning release, lightning oppression, horizontal. Lion's fang bite. Two men highly skilled in taijutsu collided head-on without any evasion. Their tremendous force caused the ground to sink deeply, like a meteorite impact. Rocks were thrown by the shockwave, and even the tiny splinters could easily take the life of a genin. The two stood in the pit, their forearms locked in a pure contest of strength, which was more powerful than ordinary A-rank ninjutsu go back. Suddenly, Yuto roared, his body rotating abruptly, and chakra spouted from various tenketsu, 8 trigrams palms, revolving heaven. Caught off guard, A was bounced back. Yuto seized the moment, grabbed his enemy's thigh, and with a burst of chakra-enhanced strength, he fiercely swung forward. Boom. With the assistance of the strength of the 100 seal, Yuto's strength was so formidable that he could break cliffs. He didn't hold back, and A was thrown far away, his speed surpassing a freefall from 100 meters high. A's strong and tall body became a weapon. Crashing into the dense ranks of the Kumo shinobi, he kept colliding with his fellow shinobi, breaking their bones and leaving a bloody trail. Kid A finally stopped himself, surprisingly unscathed. He roared in anger and charged again. "What a stubborn brute," Yuto cursed inwardly. Just as he was about to gather his chakra armor again, he saw a peculiar blade attacking from behind, cutting through the air with a whooshing sound. Yuto raised his right hand, with the characteristics of ruined steel. He wasn't afraid of any sharp weapon. Bang! The blade fell on the pitch-black bandage, and as Yuto expected, it couldn't cut through his ruined steel. However, the next moment, he saw a peculiar hammer. "It's the blunt blade, KABUTOWARI ... Single quotes, Yuto's heart sank. It was too late to escape. The hammer fell on the back of the blade, and through a unique secret technique, its power was amplified layer by layer. When the force burst from the thick blade edge, it was beyond human resistance. Yuto was directly smashed into the ground, his right arm numb with pain, clearly more than just a surface injury. The blunt blade Kabutowa was famed for ignoring defenses. Although it was obviously an exaggeration, it showed that its renown came from power and penetration. Lone Lion Yuto Hyuga, was it you who killed Jinpachi Munashi? 6 people appeared in front of him, holding bizarre weapons, all with the blood of Konoha shinobi still wet on their blades. Yuto shook himself free from the soil, looking at the 6 members of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist, without saying a word. The fish wasn't big enough yet.